Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tangmen based on novel. So let's start. He saw a ravishing beauty with flowing blue hair, and another person who was covered entirely in metal, emitting an intense golden glow. They were holding hands as a miraculous glow shone from their bodies. It wasn't just light that came from their bodies, there was also warmth. More and more of the bodyguards were standing up by now. All of them turned around and faced Huo Yuhao and Wang Dong'er, who were both emitting the sun-moon radiance. The White Tiger bodyguards started to kneel down on one knee and express their gratitude towards the both of them for giving them a chance to live again. Their eyes were filled with respect and passion. In their hearts, the two of them possessed the strength of gods. The gold and silver light suddenly became much more glaring. In the next instant, the light withdrew towards the center. When it disappeared, Huo Yuhao and Wang Dong'er disappeared with it. At the same time, Dai Huobin and Zhulu also heard the same calm voice. The White Tiger Duke's crisis has been averted. The deep adventure round has ended and the two of you have passed. Everything started to distort and become blurry at this moment as their world seemed to be spinning. Whether it was Huo Yuhao, Wang Dong'er, Dai Huobin or Zhulu, they all entered a weird space. The calm voice sounded in their ears once again. The voice said to Dai Huobin and Zhulu, "The two of you only put in an average performance in the deep adventure round, and thus you barely passed the round. There won't be any rewards, but the two of you can enter the last round, the sincerity love querying great adventure. I hope that you can pass the next round." The light flashed, and Dai Huobin and Zhulu disappeared. The same voice sounded in Huo Yuhao and Wang Dong'er's ears. However, they heard different things than Dai Huobin and Zhulu had. The White Tiger Duke met with danger, and Huo Yuhao was able to use his spiritual power to warn him, as well as to gain his trust using his own abilities. This is an important reason why the two of you passed this deep adventure round. However, you didn't use your own abilities to chase the enemies away. Instead, you used external items to do so. As a result, you didn't pass the deep adventure round with full marks. However, on account of the fact that you saved everyone in time and reduced the number of casualties, I'll consider it a pass. Originally, the reward that the two of you were supposed to get was one chance to recover from a critical injury. However, you instead chose to restore everything to normal. As a result, your rewards will be cancelled, and your points have become negative. The two of you will need to go through another deep adventure round. If you pass, you can advance to the third round, the true love querying great adventure. Be prepared, your second deep adventure round is about to start. Huo Yuhao and Wang Dong'er still felt as if their world was spinning. They couldn't see their surroundings clearly. However, they were smiling delightedly at this moment, and they gripped each other's hands tightly. They didn't regret having to go through the deep adventure round again. To be able to revive so many loyal soldiers, they felt that it was worth it even if they had to go through several more rounds. Right now, the satisfaction that they felt in their hearts was unrivaled. As a light flashed, Huo Yuhao and Wang Dong'er also disappeared. White light descended from the sky. The White Tiger Duke landed in the valley. He was stunned when he saw his bodyguards standing on the jagged rocks. At this point, the reinforcements from the base had already arrived. Many strong individuals were here to protect the White Tiger Duke. The sun-moon divine needle was still shining in the sky. It was a pity that their enemies had already fled far away. Seeing that most of his subordinates were still alive, the White Tiger Duke was feeling very emotional as he looked at the gold and silver ball in the sky. Who was that? Who was it that helped me and saved me from this crisis? Who exactly was it? The White Tiger Duke stood there in a daze, and didn't speak for a long time. Bei Bei and Shusansha were in a rather disastrous situation right now. After they encountered the Radiant City Patrol, they had no choice but to use force to charge their way out. They couldn't possibly explain their identities. In addition, they didn't even look like they came from the Sun-Moon Empire. However, they attracted even more enemies after they charged past the first group of guards. It was only now that Bei Bei and Shusansha realized how terrifying Radiant City was. Even though the surrounding walls were broken and dilapidated, defense-type soul tools were still everywhere. However, the aerial surveillance soul tools were even more terrifying. The surveillance soul tools weren't very strong, but they remained hundreds of meters in the air. They were very practical, and were used to follow Shusansha and Bei Bei. With these surveillance soul tools to guide them, the Sun Moon Empire's soldiers were always hot on their trail. Even though the two of them were strong, they were still in peril. In addition, soul engineers had been deployed to deal with them because they were resisting strongly. Right now, they were still some way off from the western edge of Radiant City. What left Bei Bei and Shusansha even more depressed was that their injuries were starting to influence their abilities. Golden light flashed, and Huo Yuhao and Wang Dong finally felt stable. It took the two of them some time to adapt before they stopped feeling dizzy. Huo Yuhao pulled Wang Dong close to him, and subconsciously activated his spiritual detection. Huo Yuhao was surprised by current state of his body. Earlier, he and Wang Dong had drained themselves to save the White Tiger bodyguards, but right now, he discovered that he was feeling much better. Even his soul power seemed to have experienced an improvement, and his spiritual power had become more refined. However, Huo Yuhao's expression suddenly changed greatly. He exclaimed, "Ah! What's going on?" As he shouted, Wang Dong also became anxious. Huo Yuhao looked heartbroken as he said, "My Sun Moon Divine Needle is still with the White Tiger Duke. It's a Class 9 soul tool. If the Duskwater Alliance wasn't trying to poach me, they wouldn't have asked Xu Qianran to make Yi Yulin give up the Sun Moon Divine Needle." Huo Yuhao was very clever. During the tournament, he had already guessed the reason why the Star Sky Doluo had offered the Sun Moon Divine Needle as a reward for the champion. The tournament was decided with a fight, and the Duskwater Alliance knew how strong Huo Yuhao's martial soul was. They were trying to use a Class 9 soul tool and a Class 9 stationary soul cannon shell to bribe him. In fact, it was just another way of boosting the strength of the Holy Ghost Church. The truth was that their judgment of Huo Yuhao's abilities was accurate. Even with Yi Gai's appearance, Huo Yuhao still managed to attain victory. As for Yi Gai, she was in a slightly more pitiful state right now. Huo Yuhao had placed her in his spectral demiplane, and was prepared to release her after he managed to escape danger following the conclusion of the tournament. However, who would have expected the Yin-Yang Love Querying Valley to appear so suddenly, isolating his connection with his spectral demiplane? Yi Gai had no choice but to wait for a while longer inside. Of course, Huo Yuhao could guarantee Yi Gai's safety. The spectral demiplane was passed down from Electrolux to Huo Yuhao. As his teacher, Electrolux had also passed him the key to controlling the demiplane. Even though Huo Yuhao couldn't completely control the demiplane given his lack of abilities, he was still able to draw out a safe region to contain Yi Gai. Huo Yuhao's heart was aching after he lost the Sun Moon Divine Needle. Given his twin martial souls, he should have been able to use the needle when he obtained 8 rings. It was a powerful soul tool that even a transcendent Doluo was terrified of. "Are you really heartbroken?" Wang Dong was amused as she looked at him. Huo Yuhao was stunned. "Am I not supposed to feel this way?" Wang Dong chortled and hugged his metal arm. She said, "You didn't give it to an outsider, though." Huo Yuhao's expression turned slightly weird. As he recalled what had happened earlier, he suddenly realized that he had started to hate the White Tiger Duke less and less. He had been filled with admiration and respect when he saw how the White Tiger Duke sacrificed his safety for his subordinates. "No, I won't forgive him," Huo Yuhao forcefully told himself. However, he didn't feel so heartbroken when he realized he had given the Sun Moon Divine Needle to the White Tiger Duke. Whatever. At least he's safer with the needle. That way, he won't be killed so easily, and he can wait for me to return to exact revenge on him. As he thought about it from this perspective, Huo Yuhao felt that he had straightened things out. His expression also returned to normal. At this moment, the calm voice that made Huo Yuhao and Wang Dong jumpy sounded once again. The deep adventure round begins. The topic is rescue. Another rescue. However, Huo Yuhao's expression changed in the next instant. "The two of you are to the west of Radiant City. Bei Bei and Shusansha are trying to break out from this direction. The two of you will be considered to have passed this round if you can rescue them from the danger they are currently facing and return to the Western Mountain. If the two of you fail this mission, the punishment is death. At the same time, the two of them will also die." The deep adventure round begins. Eldest and third senior's deep adventure round was actually in Radiant City. Radiant City is a very dangerous place to be in right now. Just as Huo Yuhao was horrified, he was also depressed. That was because he hadn't been given enough information. He was supposed to rescue them, but he didn't know their exact location. This meant that they still had to locate them before rescuing them. It was going to be very difficult. However, Huo Yuhao suddenly had a strange feeling at this moment. He was stunned to realize that the aura of the yin-yang love-querying valley seemed to have experienced some form of transformation. The direct benefit of this transformation was that he could now connect to his spectral demiplane. This meant that he could use the strength left behind by Electrolux if he had no choice. At the same time, he could also. Huo Yuhao grabbed Wang Dong's hand and recited an incantation. A light flashed, and both of them vanished. In the next moment, a cold and sinister world was right in front of them, Huo Yuhao's spectral demiplane. The spectral demiplane, created by Electrolux, was indeed extraordinary. Huo Yuhao immediately sensed that the love-querying valley's control of him had disappeared the moment he stepped into this demiplane. This meant that he shouldn't be affected by the valley here. However, it was a pity that he was even here at all. Huo Yuhao sighed. The love-querying valley is too cunning. My mission is to save eldest and third senior, and thus some of the restraints I was under have also been released. It was true that he wouldn't be affected by the power of the valley in this spectral demiplane. However, could he really forsake Bei Bei and Shu Sancha and escape with Wang Dong? It was obviously not a practical choice. You're finally here. I thought that you were still a cheat, a resentful voice called out. A yellow figure flashed up, and the angry Yi Gai appeared in front of them. She was enraged. When Huo Yuhao defeated her with his abilities, she was already half convinced by what he said. After that, Huo Yuhao's power brought her to this place, where undead were all around. She didn't know how he did it, but the undead didn't get close to her. However, the aura in this spectral demiplane was too uncomfortable and irksome for her, since she had the holy angel martial soul. When Huo Yuhao left, he left for a long time. Yi Gai was tempted to kill the undead on more than one occasion to vent her disgust towards this world she was in. However, she knew that the undead here were different. These undead were filled with the aura of light, wouldn't give her any strength, or strengthen her martial soul. Furthermore, there was an army of them. No matter how self-confident she was, she couldn't possibly clash with them directly. After waiting for such a long time, Huo Yuhao was finally here. Naturally, she was angry with him. Huo Yuhao was apologetic as he said, I'm sorry, Yi Gai. We've met with a bit of a special situation. I'll bring you out now. However, we'll need your help when we get out. Our friends are trapped in Radiant City. We need to rescue them. Yi Gai snorted coldly. Why should I help you? You are a disgusting evil soul master. I'm still not even clear about who you are. Huo Yuhao was a little helpless as he answered, up to you. Anyway, I'm mainly here because I have to release you. If you don't want to help us, you can leave as soon as you're out. It's very dangerous outside. Come on. As he spoke, he lifted his right hand and recited another incantation. A strange layer of grayish light engulfed the three of them. Although Yi Gai revealed a disgusted look on her face, she didn't try to avoid it. In addition, she started glancing in Wang Dong's direction. Wang Dong was dressed in a white warrior robe, which perfectly accentuated her petite figure. Although her figure seemed a little less mature than Wang Qiu's, she had a more youthful aura. Her powder blue hair flowed behind her head, and her big, beautiful eyes seemed like the prettiest gems in the world. As she grinned, Yi Gai was dazed, even though she had always been one who was confident in her ravishing looks. However, she didn't remain in a daze for too long. Very soon, they vanished in a patch of distorted light. Yi Gai was jolted awake by the aura of necromancy. These undulations, which sickened and disgusted her, lasted for a minute or so, until they were finally brought back to the familiar world. It was nighttime here as well, but the sky above Radiant City was empty. The huge buildings emitted all sorts of lights. Even though they were still some distance away, they could still easily make out where they were. Huo Yuhao was rushing to rescue Bei Bei and Shu Sancha, and thus he couldn't be bothered with Yi Gai. He quickly pulled Wang Dong as he charged in the direction of Radiant City. Hey! You haven't explained things to me. Yi Gai's figure flashed, and she pursued the two of them before intercepting Huo Yuhao. Huo Yuhao turned grim as he said, move away, I need to rescue some people. If you dare to block me, you'll be my enemy. Although I think your holy angel will be very useful to deal with evil soul masters, I won't hesitate to turn you into a specter, either. Get lost. As he spoke, Huo Yuhao's eyes shone with golden light, and his immense spiritual power surged towards Yi Gai. You, why are you so fierce? Yi Gai was shocked. After all, Huo Yuhao had defeated her once, and left a deep impression on her mind. As she saw how serious and assertive he was right now, she couldn't help but feel a little afraid. Huo Yuhao ignored and ran around her, as he continued to pull Wang Donga along with him. His speed soared as he burst towards Radiant City. Yi Gai stomped her feet in indignation as she watched them leave. However, she still followed them. Hey! Wait for me. I'll help you rescue your friends. However, you must tell me what's going on with your evil soul master abilities after we rescue them. Wang Donga chortled and shot a flirtatious glance at Huo Yuhao before saying, loosening up to get her under your control. You sure have a way with chasing girls. Huo Yuhao snapped, we are in such a rush now, but you still have the mood to crack jokes. Help me. As he spoke, his armor flipped up, revealing his left hand. Their Haodong power started to circulate through their bodies via the hand that was holding on to Wang Donga. Huo Yuhao's eyes also became brighter. His vigorous spiritual power shot forward like a sharp sword. At this point, Huo Yuhao didn't bother hiding his spiritual cultivation anymore. His spiritual strength had reached an extremely high level, and his spiritual power changed into a beam of invisible spiritual light that shot into the distance to observe his surroundings. As he turned his head, he started to scan around. Yi Gai felt the vigorous spiritual power from Huo Yuhao wash past her, and was horrified. The demand on her own spiritual power to use her holy angel was also very high. This was because her holy angel didn't just rely on the power of light to become stronger, it also relied on the power of belief, as well as the power of purification that was obtained from purifying evil. All these required immense spiritual power to control. As a result, Yi Gai had always been very confident in her spiritual power. However, she now discovered that her spiritual power couldn't compare to Huo Yuhao. His cultivation is obviously only around 6 rings, but the strength of his spiritual power seems to be boundless and unpredictable. His terrifying spiritual suppression can even exceed that of a title Doluo. After his quick scan, Huo Yuhao didn't find Bei Bei and Shu Sanqi's auras. However, he discovered a large number of the Sun Moon Empire's troops. They were all deployed to the west of Radiant City, and encircling it secretly. There were also several soul engineers equipped with soul tools among these troops. They were moving in an orderly manner, and it was obvious that they were prepared to react to any kind of situation. Huo Yuhao took in a deep breath, and slowly shut his shining golden eyes. A strange glow began to shine on his forehead. His eye of destiny opened silently, and a purplish golden light shot out from it. As he fully unleashed his spiritual power, Huo Yuhao also finally revealed one of his soul rings that he usually concealed with his imitation. White, purple, purple, black, black. His 5 soul rings appeared around him. Yes, these were the true colors of Huo Yuhao's soul rings. The words that the Sky Dream Iceworm told him before weren't exaggerated. His spirit eyes were able to become so strong, because his soul rings evolved as his spiritual power increased, and later, after he fused with the Sky Dream Iceworm's spiritual origin. His first soul ring was a 10-year soul ring, his second and third rings were 1,000-year soul rings, and his fourth and fifth soul rings were 10,000-year soul rings. Among soul masters of the same rank, he was unique. Furthermore, his second and third soul rings might even evolve to 10,000-year soul rings, as his spiritual power continued to increase. Yi Gai was shocked when she saw his 5 soul rings. What's going on? 10-year, 1,000-year, 1,000-year, 10,000-year, 10,000-year. Is he normal? Aren't his soul rings supposed to be grayish? Why are they like that now? Which ones are real, and which ones are fake? He's only a soul king, but he defeated me even though I'm a soul emperor. This completely contradicted everything Yi Gai knew about soul masters. Suddenly, she became very curious about Huo Yuhao. Huo Yuhao's Eye of Destiny spiritual detection could cover more than 7 kilometers, if aimed in a single direction. It was the best that he could manage right now. As he scanned the area with his spiritual detection, he sensed everything that was happening within the region he scanned. Finally, he revealed a delighted look on his face. I've found them. Let's go. Yi Gai, follow us. Stay no more than 10 meters away from us. Yi Gai wanted to retort, but Huo Yuhao had already pulled Wang Dong along with him as he charged forward. In addition, Wang Dong's body lit up with 1 yellow, 3 purple, and 2 black soul rings. They were better than what was normally the best combination possible. Her bluish-gold butterfly wings opened up on her back, and a captivating glow rendered her even more ravishing. HMPH. I'm not inferior to her. Yi Gai unleashed her holy angel following the rise in her competitive spirit. While she was drained in her fight with Huo Yuhao, she had completely recovered when she was in the spectral demiplane. The place was filled with a spectral aura, but there was also a dense aura of light. However, it didn't help her recover her soul power. As she opened her 4 angel wings, Yi Gai fluttered her feathery wings and chased after Huo Yuhao. There were white wings on one side, and bluish-gold wings on the other side. The 3 of them definitely formed a very dazzling lineup. The Sun Moon Empire's troops were already watching them from afar. Huo Yuhao lifted his head to peer into the sky. With his vision, he had already located a few surveillance soul tools in the sky. A cold smile appeared on his lips. While these surveillance soul tools were effective against most people, they might not be effective against him. A strange layer of spiritual undulations rippled from his body. Yi Gai only saw his first, white soul ring shining before the light around them started to bend. She was also inside, and thus she couldn't see what changes were happening to her body. The only feeling that she got was that the light that both she and Wang Dong emitted dimmed down before it disappeared. Their surroundings also turned pitch black. However, she could still see the bluish gold from Wang Dong's wings. She became very curious as she witnessed this strange scene occurring. However, she was astonished at the next moment. Huo Yuhao's gentle spiritual power was transmitted over. As she thought he was trying to connect with her, she naturally accepted his spiritual power. However, Yi Gai opened her eyes wide in shock following this. Everything around her became very clear in her mind. She could tell what was going for several square kilometers around her. She almost shouted out loud when she realized she had an all-around view of her surroundings. Spiritual power can be used in this way. Isn't he an evil soul master? However, I can't feel any evil aura from him now. On the contrary, there's a very thick aura of light. What's with this guy? Yi Gai followed Huo Yuhao tightly as the questions piled up in her mind. Through his spiritual detection, he told her to follow him closely. Very soon, the 3 of them got close to the troops, who were stationed to the west of Radiant City. Yi Gai started to get a little nervous. Although the 3 of them were very strong, they were still outnumbered. Furthermore, the Sun Moon Empire's military would still have some soul engineers, even if there was no real soul engineering team around. They were trying to make their way into Radiant City. If they were discovered, they would be surrounded. This guy doesn't seem like an idiot. Why is he doing something as foolish as this? However, she was shocked once again even before her doubts were answered. The soldiers didn't seem to notice them at all. They didn't react even though the 3 of them were getting closer and closer. In fact, the soldiers weren't able to see them at all. Huo Yuhao had used his imitation to hide from others on several occasions. It was even more effective at night. Unless one really tried to sense his aura, they wouldn't be able to detect him using the naked eye. In addition, only soul masters that were superior in cultivation to him and certain special soul beasts would be able to sense his aura while he was concealed this way. They were able to charge past the troops into Radiant City openly. Yi Gai stopped trying to guess what Huo Yuhao's abilities were shortly thereafter. It was because she was more astonished by the dilapidated buildings and walls in front of her. As she looked at several of the collapsed buildings in front of her, as well as the fishes on the ground that snaked around everywhere, Yi Gai couldn't help but exclaim, "Is this really Radiant City? Why has it become like this?" "Shut up." Huo Yuhao transmitted this message to her through his spiritual power. His imitation couldn't isolate sound. "Is she trying to tell the troops where we are?" Yi Gai also realized her mistake, but she was still dissatisfied as she snorted at Huo Yuhao, "Am I supposed to shut up just because you want me to?" While she was speaking again, she tried her best to lower her volume. Huo Yuhao didn't have time to bother with her. Right now, he could sense that Bei Bei and Shusansha were in a crisis. He quickened his footsteps and burst forward. He didn't choose to fly, because he understood soul tools very well. The aerial surveillance soul tools in the air had very simple structures, as they were very large, and yet needed to remain in the air. However, the anti-air soul tools on the ground were different. He couldn't hide from them even with his imitation. The anti-air soul tools were aided by soul power detection soul tools. No matter what, Huo Yuhao couldn't possibly conceal his soul power undulations completely. Once they were discovered, they couldn't possibly handle the barrage of attacks that would be unleashed against them. Bei Bei and Shusansha were indeed in a disastrous situation right now. They had been surrounded by their enemies. A bunch of soul engineers that had them surrounded. These soul engineers weren't individually strong, the highest ranked among them was only a class 5 soul engineer. However, they had strength in numbers. At least 40 soul engineers had formed a loose circle, trapping the two of them. The soul tools that were used were mainly class 3 or class 4. However, they were mainly used for rapid and long-range attacks. There were many rapid-fire cannons and explosive bombs that were targeting Bei Bei and Shusansha. They weren't given the opportunity to catch their breath. The fighting strength of soul engineers would greatly increase after they achieved a certain numerical advantage. That was what was happening with this bunch of soul engineers. They were from the Sun Moon Empire's Soul Engineering Legion, and had great chemistry with one another. The soul tools that they used only exhausted their soul power, and didn't drain any other resources. If Bei Bei and Shusansha had been at their peak condition, they wouldn't find it a problem to fight their way out. However, the two of them were critically injured during the Continental Elite Youth Soul Master Academy. Although they had received treatment in time, they were still far from fully recovered. After a series of fights, their injuries had relapsed. At this point, Shusansha was using his shield of the Xuanwu turtle to protect Bei Bei. He tried to charge his way out a few times, but he was forced to retreat on every occasion. Furthermore, a flashing red light silently appeared in the sky at this point. This ball of light very quickly locked onto Shusansha. It was an eye of fear. Even though they weren't soul engineers, Bei Bei and Hikaitu recognized what it was. During the tournament, Hikaitu used an eye of fear to create many opportunities for their team to beat their opponents. However, they were the ones who were going to suffer from the wrath of this eye of fear right now. It wasn't a good feeling to be on the wrong side this time. Bei Bei, I didn't expect to die with you here. I'll fight all the way with them. Later, try to break out on your own when I unleash my full abilities. I can't take care of her anymore. Ask her to find a good guy and marry him, Shusansha said to Bei Bei without any hesitation. Bei Bei was flustered and exasperated as he said, "Nonsense. I don't think you can help me escape with your lacking abilities. I think you should get out of here. You're more likely to escape with that turtle shell you've got. I'm more explosive than you." In the face of this crisis, he was less refined than he normally was. Shusansha was furious. Cut the crap. Anyway, Nan Nan has always nursed a grievance against me. She won't be too sad even if I die. You are different from me. You still have to save Xiao Ya. What will she do without you? Go on, get the hell out of here. That eye of fear is about to finish charging. As he spoke, he gave Bei Bei a forceful push. However, Bei Bei's body shone with blinding golden light at this point. A sonorous dragon roar reverberated through the 9 heavens. It was a sign that meant the radiant holy dragon was about to be unleashed. Bei Bei hadn't tapped into the abilities of his radiant holy dragon earlier, even though he was facing formidable enemies, due to his injuries. However, it was evident that he was going all out by unleashing it now. Shusanshi's eyes were red as he glared at Bei Bei. However, Bei Bei now appeared very calm and refined. He was smiling as he looked at Shusansha. The golden bolts of lightning that surged around him started to gradually turn into a light fog. Everything within a region of several tens of square meters turned a blinding gold. In a matter of seconds, lightning flashed within this region, which seemed to have transformed into a special world. The golden glow around Bei Bei started to combust like flames. He was burning his life energy to increase the strength of his soul power. His radiant holy dragon was strong enough to increase his fighting strength significantly. By sacrificing his life energy, he made his fighting strength even more terrifying. Shu Sanxi's eyes had already turned red. He wanted to stop Bei Bei, but he was flung far away by a strong bolt of golden lightning. This video will end here.